Check out the Sustainability Expo Europe October 1st and 2nd in Amsterdam. 500 plus expert speakers. Use a code SESustain20 at checkout. Get 20% off. Welcome everybody back to the Sustainiacs, or for the first time. I'm Michael Vincent. I'm always the Sustainiac, and my guest Sustainiac this week is Jesse Langley, and he is CEO at Lotus Sustainables, in case he didn't know. But Jesse, hey, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. We've had a couple bumps getting this together, but it's
as is life.
I've had worse. It is. Life happens. It's happening right now. You know, all around us. I'm not recording this on my phone as a message to anybody this time or anything crazy like that. So we're in great shape. So Jesse, let's talk about what's going on, man. I mean, we're here to talk about sustainables and sustainability and all kinds of different technologies and ways to, solve the issues of waste and waste plastic and circular economies and certainly replacements, bioplastics, et cetera, all that other kind of stuff. What are you guys doing at Lotus? Give us the lowdown.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Yeah, we're super excited. The work we're doing at Lotus is mission driven. So our mission is to eliminate single-use plastic bags from shopping. So we're very focused in that space. And to date, we've been able to divert almost 5 billion plastic bags from landfills. So we're making some headway, but there's a long path ahead, and really excited about being able to do that.
Yeah, 5 billion. So do you know what that is in as far as like a percentage of a greater volume or anything like that? Because it sounds awesome and huge, but it's really not, is it?
It's really
I mean,
not.
it's awesome, but it's not like it hasn't solved the entire. It's not like, hey, we're done. Solution done, right?
Not even close. You're totally right. And you know what? I don't know the overall percentage of what that means. And you're right. It sounds like a big number, but it's not even a blip on the radar as to what's been done and what's ahead, right?
Well, I put out a thing yesterday about plastic bags in California, and because this, we ban things without a solution for the other side, and sometimes you have these unintended consequences, and things get a bit worse until you go, okay, wait a minute, we need to add this part to the solution, right? And I'm not saying anybody's doing anything bad or wrong. We just learn as we do things, right? And so it was like 231 million or 231,000 tons of plastic bags going into landfills, and it's really hard to explain to people what that is. But just go pick up a plastic bag at a Walmart, and then imagine how many of those it would take to make 231,000 tons. I mean, I could put like 40 of them on top of your head. You wouldn't even know they're there. Right?
It's so
light.
And I think you bring up a good point, Michael. Like, so at bringing California back into the picture, so that was really the start of the mission, was back in 2017 when California placed that ban on single-use plastic bags. And what you saw, said unintended consequences. What plastic did then is they just made thicker plastic bags and deemed them reusable. And the reality is that we ended up adding more tonnage to plastic bags being thrown away because of that. So there is a new law going into effect this next year that is banning those bags now, finally. So those unintended consequences, we've now righted the ship here, 7 years later, as to how to effectively say, no, that wasn't the intent. How do we really put a real solve in place that does actual, do what we're all looking to achieve?
Yeah, it's a do-over, and we've seen this, and it's happened in other states as well, where it just kind of doesn't work, because you've got to get the people to understand that reusable bag is something they need to be reusing all the time. But you also have to have some way of getting rid of that bag at its end of life, because even those reusables don't last forever. And if you're not recycling that flexible film, then you may not be sending X number a day, but the weight can be the same because you're sending one that's 10 times the weight, a tenth of the time. That hasn't solved anything, right?
Right.
So you have to have those different solutions. So what is your solution there at what you're doing at Lotus?
Yeah, you said something that's important, is you need to be able and want to use those bags again and again.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've solved for. Like, what are the features that want you to use these bags? So as part of, and I'll take one of our products, which was our first product that we started with, which is called the Lotus trolley bag. So it's a it's a 4 bag system, opens up in your cart like an accordion, has different pockets. There's a cooler bag, there's a pocket for your egg, your wine, your flowers, whatever it may be. So the functional uses around organization, as well as being able to then, it all rolls up. Each of them are Velcroed together. You can easily put that in your car, and then it rolls up easily like a yoga mat. And so it's easily compactable, easy to carry. So those are the kind of things that, hey, we can't just rely on making a bag for bag's sake, for sustainability sake. We need to make sure we're making it that is really going to have other functions for people around organization and effectiveness and use, so they don't forget their bags when they go into the store and they remember them to bring them in.
Yeah, the solution has to be as good at minimum, and you've taken it many steps further. I've looked at it, and the trolley bag is amazing because it adds value, obviously, to it, which is what you want to do, right? I mean, you want to people have to want this solution, not go, oh well, crap, I can't use plastic bags. I guess I'll use this, right? That doesn't work. Not now you're relying on altruism, which we all know fails because people see shiny objects all the time and they're diverted and they forget about the original mission, right?
100%, right. So we can't just lean on sustainability and the actions of us all wanting to have a healthier planet, which we all do, but we need to make sure that there's steps in place to make it a lot easier for people to make that decision.
Yeah, if you make it convenient, you make it attractive, and you make it affordable, and you make the business a viable, actual business model that doesn't rely on charitable gifts to stay afloat. Now you've actually has a solution,
You're
right?
absolutely
And
right.
that's what you've got there. So the trolley bag is, I looked at it and we discussed. We actually talked before this show, people. If you haven't realized that type of stuff, but it's super cool because it sits in the back of your car, right? You can put it in your trunk or under your lift gate or your hatchback, whatever you want to call it, and then but it also sits in the trolley or the shopping cart quite nicely because it's kind of like file folders that you put in your desk drawer, right?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I love it. But you have the other stuff as well because those are when I go to the store, Jesse, we'll just stay on this topic for a minute because when I go to the store, I'll go and I won't use the plastic bags for like the produce. I'll grab an onion and throw it in my cart. I'll grab a couple of tomatoes, throw them. I don't throw them because I want them to not be bruised and that type of stuff. But I don't see the point in putting it in this plastic bag and then putting it in another plastic bag and then getting home and throwing out 2 plastic bags, right? I
Right.
mean, it's ridiculous. And sometimes they look at me like I'm a bit strange because, here comes the conveyor belt down the thing and they're checking it out. And then all of a sudden there's just all this loose produce just thrown on the thing. And I look at them and I say, I'm going to wash it before I eat it. I promise you.
Yes.
But I don't need the plastic bags, right?
Yes.
But you have a solution for even that too, which is super cool.
We do, as we continue to innovate in the space, and that's one thing that we really continue to strive to do is innovate in this space. And so we came out with a reusable produce bag, and that is, 3 different sizes of it. It's made from a really strong material. It's really high quality. It allows us to really effectively have consumers use it for all of their produce needs, right? And so we currently sell those obviously online and in stores and such. And that's continuing to be more and more the behavior that we're seeing and that we hope to see. And also, again, as mentioned, legislation is continuing to move the needle on those things as well. But it's all about the high quality construction and the type of materials. There's some, the frustrating piece is when a product is made and after it's supposed to be reusable, but then after 10 times it falls apart, right? And the resources that went into producing that are more harmful than if someone used 10 single-use plastic bags. So
Hundred percent.
it's a reverse, right? So that's why we really pride ourselves on the quality of construction and the features that we put into these products. And we found actually, Michael, that people are using our produce bags for so many other things, right? They're putting their toiletries in it when they travel. They're washing their delicates with it. They're putting their kids' Legos in it so they're not all over the floor. Like, it's so awesome to hear our consumers that are out there that are telling us all the great features that they're using it for, because it's a quality product that's constructed well, and they have a lot of other uses for it.
It absolutely is. And, the first thing that crossed my mind when I saw it was like, I got to get one of those so I can like contain all my golf balls in my golf bag.
There you go. Okay, perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Because I could just pull it out, set it in the cart, and then, it probably holds about a dozen golf balls, which is what I need to get through your regular par five. I'm just kidding. So I have one bag for each hole and I'm good.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, no, it's fabulous because, even the alternative, you have to have that alternative, like we said, right? You can't expect people to be sustainable or to recycle or to reuse or to upcycle or to reduce unless there's another option. And it has to be an option that, in our society doesn't cause pain or disruption or very little of it, because that's just the way our culture is. There's others around the world. Well, they'll use it even, they'll go through the inconvenience to be a little bit more mindful of the environment. And that's just the way they grew up, the culture as it did because of, their society, but also the environment they grew up in. Right. But not so in most of, North America. It's just the way it is. Right.
Exactly. So, it's a behavioral change, right? And that's,
Yeah.
as we all know, that's tough to change. But the reality is, like you said, having that solution that is there, and having other external forces that are help moving it, just that consumer behavior, the awareness that consumers are becoming more and more today is obviously, some more of the ESG goals that are pushing legislation, just overall areas that are helping us being the United States, catch up, honestly, with most of the developed world in this lane.
So are there? So you attach a certain amount of plastic bags reduced or eliminated from use, which therefore keeping it out of going into the environment, obviously, um, per unit sold. Is that how you're calculating those things? Is that right?
Exactly. We use the kind of the standard data out there. Around a family of four uses 1,200 plastic bags per year, and help
Yeah.
equate that into the kind of the
Okay.
formula.
So if they used your product for a year, there's 1,200 bags taken out of it.
Exactly.
Is the assumption, right? That's what, yeah, I got you. That makes a ton of sense. Does that equate to carbon, or have you looked at that? Because, production of your bags versus carbon, et cetera. Have you looked at that?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question, and there's a lot more data that we're gonna start diving deeper into to equate
Yeah.
those things. That is a big part of our mission, so that is important to us, and something that we will look at those offsets. Also, the type of what type of materials are some of those bags being constructed with, and again, we have
Right.
a broader product line than just those two that I mentioned. But
Yeah.
is there RPET that we're able to use? And so now we're taking plastic bottles out of the system, and so we're kind of really really hitting it at both sides. And so those are areas we're continuing to find success and look for.
Yeah, so you're bringing in the recycled content into these bags, right? That's fantastic. Is it? And well, I mean, we don't have to get into that stuff. Most people, I'll geek out over what type of materials you can use inside those bags that you're doing, that you're making. But that's really interesting. So, did you just? I mean, why grocery bags? Just you saw you saw the need and you jumped into Lotus, or how did this come about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually grew up in a grocery store. It's pretty interesting. The year
Oh
I was
wow!
born, my parents built a grocery store, a kind of a mid-sized grocery store. So that was a
Oh
big
really?
part of my life. Yes.
Wow.
So I don't know where that plays in the overall equation of inserted into the DNA. But the founders of Lotus, Jen and Farzan, founded the company about 7 years ago. I joined the team about 5 years ago. And the reason I
Okay.
joined the team is one, the mission, really focused on how I can up level people on the planet and, just what I can help bring and add value to. And so I've had opportunities in the past to do work for people on the planet, and this really aligned and have an amazing team to work with. And so it's been a joy for sure, Michael.
So how has the adoption gone? I'm interested because of the way our society is built, and you can. It's important for people to adopt these type of things and to understand that they're out there, and not to just think, oh well, there's other people getting this done. Is the adoption stronger? I imagine it probably is in California. And if that's so, is it because that's where you're, kind of grew up or started introducing this, or is it because of the mandates? Because the convenience of this, I mean, I told you when I first met you, we're going to buy these, so we're using them, but we're in Tennessee, and Tennessee could not care less if you throw away plastic bags, apparently, for some reason, But still, it's a way better option. It's just easier to shop with these things.
Yes.
It's just way easier. So
Yeah,
is that adoption happening outside of that just because of the pure functionality, and it's just a better way to do it rather than it's totally environmentally better?
exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. And just speaking towards adoption, like yes, the trend lines are in our favor,
Yeah, I imagine
thankfully.
they are.
Like that is moving it, and from some of those external factors that I mentioned, but also just the reality with it. And it's not just I would say it's a little obviously started on the coast, the east and west coast, from Washington, Oregon, California, and then over from Vermont, New York, New Jersey. Like, so those were some of the leading states to continue to ban plastic bags.
Right.
But Michael, we've also along that adoption, we've run into other forces that have pushed back, and I'll give you an example. COVID.
Okay.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember, reusable bags were banned during COVID. Like, you were not
Yeah.
allowed to bring. So our product was literally banned to be used, which I don't know how many products out there that were put in that situation. But I point this out only to show you where big plastic gets involved and how what
Wow.
type of pseudoscience gets presented at first and later proved wrong, that
Right.
this is part of what's going to spread COVID, right? And so when I bring that up as the non-linear path of adoption, because you do have these things that come up in place, but the
Yeah.
reality is that the adoption, the growth in this sector is really strong, and we see it because we also are in the business of not only making our branded product. We've done a great job of really representing ourselves as a certified B Corp, as a brand that has expertise, knowledge, authenticity, high quality construction. But we're also in the space of providing private label bags for all types of brands out there as well, right? And so that's where we see more and more adoption coming, is from these other brands, retailers, others out there that are moving in that direction. So that's super encouraging to see that, because that's not a necessarily a yes, it's a consumer talking, but it is the retailer or brand making the decision around how they want to treat sustainability.
Yeah. I can see it as an add-on option when I'm building out my next Subaru too.
Yes.
I'm not kidding. I'm really
Yes.
not kidding. Because you look at, you can get the your kayak carrier on the top, or and you can get your storage cover and stuff like that. Why not a shopping rack with stuff inside there, right? I don't know.
Hey, I'm in.
There you go. You can take that. You can take that idea.
I
You can
got that.
have it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll send you a bill later
Please.
for that one. So, but one of the things I want to talk about as well is, I mean, you're obviously mission based, or driven as a human being, which is great, and I want to highlight a bit of that because part of what I'm trying to do is show people that, look, sustainability is a business, and it can be a new business, like a new technology or a new product based on need, like Lotus Sustainables, or sustainability efforts within your existing legacy business, even be a steel manufacturer or an energy manufacturer, obviously that's a big one, et cetera. No matter what you're making, even plastic planters, sustainability is not an anchor or a drag on profits or growth. It can be a catalyst that explodes that growth, right? And
Yes.
if you're thinking about those things, and even if you take that a one half step outside of your business to do something, um, you can impact the world. If we all do it, we can impact the world tremendously. Let's all hold hands and sing kumbaya. But you've got a whole bunch of other things that you're involved with, and you're involved with right right now, even with it at Lotus. So can we talk about a couple of those things,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
conscious
Sure.
capitalism in San Diego, et cetera, that you've
Yes.
been through?
Happy to. Yeah. So, one of the opportunities I'm lucky to be part of is I co chair an organization called Conscious Capitalism in the San Diego chapter here. And conscious capitalism, just to back up a little bit, is really a philosophy and movement that was founded by John Mackey and Raj Sisodia. John is obviously the founder of Whole Foods, and it was really based on a premise of elevating humanity through business. And there's four kind of main key tenets of this movement. And the first one is having a higher purpose, right? What is that North Star that you're always focused on? That's not just about pulling out driving profitability. Second one is stakeholder orientation, recognizing that we have all of these different players within this, from employees and suppliers and consumers to planet Earth to shareholders, right? Like, how do we all work together as part of this orientation? The third one being conscious leadership. So leaders that are really embracing that ecosystem and how to make decisions, and keeping a purview out for everyone. And then the fourth and final one is a conscious culture, right? These are the values, the underlying system that the company operates with. And so those are the four main tenets. And those, by when used, can really help drive business as a force for good. And so there's a lot of efforts and businesses that operate with those tenets and really help elevate humanity literally through the business actions that are being done.
Yeah, and you know back so Alfred North Whitehead, business professor at Columbia University, long time ago, wrote a bunch of books, and one of them was Adventures in Ideas. And one of those statements in there was that society is only as great as the importance its men and women of business place on their contributions to that society. And that's what Mackey's talking about,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Is that there's nothing wrong with capitalism, but if it's extract, use, and waste in all senses of it, from raw materials to the human intelligence and labor, et cetera, that's no good, right?
Right.
It needs to not be just a way for you to extract wealth from my wallet and put it in your wallet, but to actually create wealth in so many different ways: social wealth, governance wealth, environmental wealth, and all that type of thing through that business. If that's the goal, then we're great, because there's so many nascent technologies, or they're not even nascent anymore. There's so many developing technologies now. And in my space that I spent 30 plus years in, logistics, there's so many things that are being done that I'm like, why? What? I don't understand. Why does the average consumer have to have their toothbrush delivered within 2 hours? I don't understand. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody. It's bad for the planet. It teaches us just total consumption and convenience and laziness. There's absolutely no advantage to it whatsoever, other than you've got more market share than the other guy, right?
Exactly. Right. And there's a limit to that. Those external factors, as you mentioned, like the planet can only hold so much, right? It can only
Yeah.
be taken from so much. And so it's really driving business models that, not only benefit the environment, but also enhance social equity, economic resilience, right? And if you're taking a lens by doing your business where you're not just focused on squeezing as much profit out as possible, and you're looking at everyone in the equation as part of that team that you need to help support, it really becomes a win-win because you end up de-risking your business even that much more, right? Because, and I'll be happy to tell you, during COVID, guess whose product was on the containers? Guess who got front of the line from my suppliers and such, right? Because that relationship and being able to partner in a way where when you do good by others, they'll do good by you, right? And so that's really
Yeah.
that sentiment that continues to help show that same thing happens with your employees, right? If you build a culture where you're treating your employees with respect and as human beings and not just driving it all out of it, then it really changes the dynamic and how we can all operate, be happier, have more productive businesses, and at the end of the day, be successful for, again, all the stakeholders.
Yeah, more sustainable businesses. Right? I
Exactly.
mean, and you're talking about leadership that needs to evolve as society evolves, because everything that you were talking about, as far as, working with your employees, treating your employees, et cetera, that type of thing. When I was a kid, that was not a big thing. And yet, our parents, they worked, years were entrepreneurs. Mine worked for somebody, but they never changed jobs. Right. And then people started to change jobs all the time. Right. That became a thing. It was like, oh, you don't work there for 20 years or 30 years and retire or whatever anymore. And I think that it was slow for leadership to start to figure out why that was happening and how expensive that actually is. And now, as the younger generations become more and more, and you can see it in the numbers, they want sustainable packaging. They'll buy a little this, they'll spend up to 3 to 10% more for more sustainable, et cetera. That also translates into the workspace. And so as a leader, you've got to be conscious and evolve with all those type of issues as well, right? Not only with your product, but how you're operating that business, right?
100%. You have to be truly intentional with how you develop the culture at your business. It's imperative that that is part of the equation. And again, we've seen the business environment change drastically again as we have more of a remote workforce. So how does that even come together? How do you look, be it remote or hybrid or what that looks like? But you're correct, and that also this next generation is much more aware, and they have different priorities than our previous generations as to what it is.
Yeah.
It's not just all about how much money can I make at my job. It's these other factors of, well, how am I being treated? What are some of the other things? What's the mission I'm on? What's the purpose? Why am I working here? Right. And I think also, again, not using COVID as another point, but the reality is I think a lot of people during COVID stepped back and looked at the balance of their life, right? Not only from how they're spending their day, but what the work they're doing and what the mission they're on and what they're
Yeah.
contributing to or not contributing to. And
Yeah.
I believe that's a trend that's gonna stay hopefully forever, right? And definitely this next generation has really made that more and more of a priority as to what they're interested in doing and where that focus comes from.
Yeah, and I think that, but I think a lot of that attitude, and I think it's interesting to explore. But I think it, in some ways, liberated those thoughts and those desires in the previous generations.
Yes.
Like I'm almost a baby boomer, right? But right, as we were coming out of COVID, I went from total logistics to emission based plastics recycling and taking my knowledge to do better, because I was like, wait a minute, I can do better than just extracting money out of this and pretending like, hey, I'm doing great for the entire world and I'm a national hero because I know how to coordinate, materials moving across the country. I
Right.
mean, it is incredibly important, and I don't want to take anything away from it, but um, that's going to happen regardless of whether you're mission based or not. That's not exactly what we're talking about when it's like uplifting the community. Right, those
Right.
are very, very important things, don't get me wrong, but um, you know just because you're in logistics doesn't mean you're a hero. There's a bunch of other things to be done, right?
So let me ask you, what drove you to that decision, Michael? Like, what was that took you down that path?
It was really, things were changing, and the importance of it was really the importance of family and those around me, and the fact that, hey, you know what, everything could change for the worse real fast. It
Right.
became a reality. It became more of a reality. And I think, growing up through detente and the Cold War and all that kind of stuff, and when, the Scorpions' Winds of Change and all that kind of stuff actually meant something as a song, it really brought me back to those younger years where, you really, live for today was like true, because half the Air Force was required to be in the air at all times during those times and stuff like that, and the football could be opened up and buttons pressed at any moment. It was reality, right? That, hey, this could all end like in an hour. In fact, it may be over. We're not sure. we won't know for another 8 minutes whether we're still here or not, right?
Right.
That type of thing, and it brought it back, going, hey, wait a minute, this actually occurred, and yeah, I think that was really the inspiring thing to go, wait a minute, I can do something else different to help move this thing forward.
Right. Recognizing that our time here is limited and unknown, and
Yeah,
being present as to what you can do to help during that time.
100%, 100%, 100%. So the other thing, you want to talk about Rise Costa Rica, or
Yeah, so that brings in a good point. A lot of the work that I try to focus around is the next generation in education, right? And
yeah,
so a couple things that I'm involved with are really how do we help bring students into this pathway around purpose driven business. So I've had an opportunity to help get a school off the ground down in Costa Rica that's focused in this type of lane of entrepreneurial thinking and really grounded into nature and those kind of pieces. And then as part of that next step, work we do at Conscious Capitalism is we started an internship program here in San Diego, an impact internship for university students to line into. And we work with other companies that are social innovators, that are B Corps, that are really purpose driven in their efforts here in San Diego. And then we have a paid internship. We pay those interns a living wage and allow them to work with these different companies. And that helps support so many different, again, stakeholders in the system, right? Here
yeah,
we're growing San Diego as a region, as a city, as one of America's finest. We are taking students who have an interest into doing purpose-driven business and giving them the fastest path of networking, of experience, of being engaged in businesses like this. And at the same time, we're taking businesses and saying, hey, here's your talent pool that's in your backyard. Let's help nurture and grow them so these are your future employees, right? So that's a kind of an overall mission and ecosystem. And at Lotus, we've had an opportunity this last semester to have one of those interns, and it was just a phenomenal experience. And so that's really kind of the goal around having those different elements involved.
yeah. That's tremendous. I love that. I love that effort. There was an auto body company, Caliber Collision, that's nationwide, 1,700 stores, and they do a very similar thing with their internships. Right, you can come in and knowing nothing about auto body and make a great living, and they're they invest that money into raw talent and developing it and intelligence, rather than marketing to try and steal the best from somebody else. Right, and what they found is that investment starts to pay off fairly quickly, by bringing those people in there, instead of teaching that talent and uplifting the society around them and the people around them, which is tremendous. I applaud you for that. That's tremendous. We did the same thing at Tropical Shipping, sponsoring citizenship, etc., and bringing people into the business. So that's
Right. And,
fantastic
and
stuff.
we have a great opportunity, as we mentioned before, how this generation is aligned already, right? They already have a lens towards this direction. So the more
Yeah,
that we can continue to cultivate that desire, we really have an opportunity to change the paradigm. And you mentioned before, capitalism isn't bad. It's there's bad actors that have definitely used it in the wrong way, but it is a system that can work if it's used effectively and it's used with a
yeah,
little bit different lens. And so that's what really kind of through all these efforts is how do we help really look at doing business a different way that again isn't a new theory. It's out there and it obviously intentionally was driven that way. And it's only through others that it kind of got off track. but that doesn't mean it can't still move back into a system that's really effective for all stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a growth thing. It's these small steps to become big steps, right? One person as an intern grows into 2 to 4 to, and it just exponential. And one business sees you, then they start to do it, and then 10 more businesses, et cetera. And that's the way to do it. And I liken it a lot to what I'm trying to do, but what you're trying to do at Lotus, or doing at Lotus as well, right? It's not, hey, problem solved, go back to sleep, everybody, and ignore it. Just, follow the line and go on. It's all solved. No, this is a great example of how to move forward towards those solutions. And if it can be done with these plastics, then it can be done with other types of materials, et cetera. Even wood, regenerating wood, or reclaiming wood, and energy, quite
Yes.
frankly, and water, and many other things. So I applaud what you guys are doing there. What's next on the table, man? Is it? I mean, not that Lotus needs anything or you do. You're doing fantastic stuff. More of it is a fantastic answer. But is there a plan you can share at for Lotus, or moving forward?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I mentioned it a bit earlier, but we've continued to broaden the work effort at Lotus around the different types of bags that we are partnering with different brands and retailers. So it's not just a polypropylene type of production. We've got organic cotton and jute, other renewable resource bags, looking at RPET, right? All of these different opportunities are really there as a portfolio for different companies that we're working with. Because obviously, when we started Lotus, our focus was just in grocery stores, right? We had a grocery
Yeah.
bag system and a produce bag system. But again, we've taken all of our knowledge, expertise, relationships, authenticity, and really expanding that. So our opportunity in the future, in which we're acting on, is really working with other brands and retailers on how we can help service their bag needs, right? And
Mm.
how that shows up. And this is coming from quality and experience and expertise, right? We're not going to necessarily, if they want a certain bag that's at a price point that doesn't make sense to have quality construction, we're not going to make it, right? Like, someone
Yeah.
else will, but we're not going to do it at a point where we're doing harm. And that sometimes happens. And so our focus is making sure that we're coming in as a trusted solution advisor, as these different entities are making decisions on the types of bags that they're looking to help put forth. Because the intent, the desire, right, with all of these is to do well, right? They want to do it. That's not like they go in to try to say, like, well, how do I just check the box and get out of here, right? They are looking for that information and knowledge. So that's where a lot of our focus continues to grow. So we have a opportunity for a huge impact around other brands outside of our own as well.
Yeah, for sure. And there, I mean, there are that will not jump on board until they absolutely have to. There just are. You know what I'm saying? And that's a shame, but it is the way it is. Um, but I applaud what you guys are doing there, and I wish you all the best. And it's tremendous. And thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for
We've
having me,
got almost,
Michael. This has been fun. I
yeah,
appreciate it. Yes.
yeah. 40 minutes goes by like boom. It really does. But hey, we're enjoying your products, and everybody else should check out Lotus. Is it lotus.com? Is that what it is?
Lotus-sustainables.com.
That's right. Lotus-sustainables.com. Check them out. They're very cool. You'll love them. I do, because we were using a similar product, but it wasn't nearly as good as this. I mean, you've nailed it as far as, reduce, reuse, and making it much more convenient and a better product to entice people to actually do it. You've nailed it on all fronts, and I applaud that. Thank you so much. It's
Thank
been
you,
great.
Michael. I appreciate those words.
You're welcome. They're sincere. Hey, everybody! Thank you so much for tuning in and downloading the Sustainiacs. We'll see you next time. Peace and love.